Hey guys, thanks for checking out this clip of Anatomy of the Church and State. Be sure to catch the full episode on Rumble or ChristiansForLiberty.com. Links are in the show description. But kind of switching gears to another topic here, another mild topic you cover in the book is abortion. In the book, it's mentioned, now obviously this was written before Roe v. Wade was overturned. So now that it has been overturned, give us each your thoughts on that overturning.
Well, I would say, I wrote the chapter on abortion, and in that chapter, I said Roe v. Wade will never be overturned, and so I'm happy to say that I was wrong about that. Although I was surprised. Right. I think most of us were surprised. It's interesting now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned. I think that it's putting pro-lifers in a position to really reevaluate why they are pro-life and what their goal with being pro-life really was. And so you have, and you had these segments in the population before, in the pro-life movement before, which was, you had the political activists, you had the sidewalk preachers, you had, the people working at crisis pregnancy centers. You had these different parts of the movement, and they are becoming more and more prominent because now there's an opportunity to actually write law that legally prohibits abortion. And that's forcing a conversation about, well, how do you actually do that? And that gets into the economic argument. Do we ban the service or those pharmaceuticals that are used in abortion? Because libertarians would say that banning guns doesn't reduce gun violence. So does banning a DNC or banning mifepristone, will that somehow decrease abortions? Not likely if we, look at economic principles. And so, and even with the crisis pregnancy centers, and those nonprofits that are seeking to help women actually choose life, they're also having to, sort of switch gears and, make sure that they are available for those services. But in states where it's becoming illegal, it's harder to find those women who are in crisis considering it, because if they're considering it, they're considering a crime now. And so, it changes the dynamic in a way that I would say, nobody in our generation was really prepared for. So, there's a lot of things up in the air, and, not to mention you have the pro-choice side of things now, sort of upping the ante, so to speak. Some states are expanding access to abortion because in some ways Roe v. Wade was limiting. So you've got expansions to access to abortion. You've got black market options that are being put out there. It's really interesting to see how things are playing out. I think anybody who understands Austrian economic theory, though, would not be surprised by how that's playing out.
Well, and on that note, how, what happens when the father doesn't want it and they live where it's illegal and she goes to another state to get it? What legal rights does he have, if any? And now we're creating conflict between states at that point, right?
Yeah, well, the issue, and, I debated this issue with Walter Block back in 2019. And what I said in that debate was the reason why conflict exists on this issue is because of compromise. The pro-choice side compromises the rights of the fetus in favor of the woman, and the pro-life side compromises the rights of the woman in favor of the fetus. And really, what we have not done is reconciled the rights of women and offspring, much less the rights of women, offspring, and fathers. These are philosophical conversations that we have not been able to work out. And I think that is in part due to the emotional polemics of the whole thing. So, there are unanswered questions when it comes to what are the rights of the father? What are the rights of the mother? What are the rights of the fetus? And we need to work that out.
For sure. We sooner than later, hopefully, but who knows? Now, Dick, I know men aren't supposed to have opinions on abortion. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I was once a fetus, and so I have a certain point of view. But no, what I would say is I think from the Christian perspective, the problem enters the scene because we want to treat sex as transactional, because we want to use other people as instrumentalities, rather than recognize that there's sort of a unity that ought to accompany sex, the way God designed sex. And so the symptom of wanting to treat sex as transactional is to build in these escape clauses. Well, it's okay if I just have this encounter, and we, of course, know that women bear the disproportionate biological burden from a sexual act, right? And so, they're the ones who get pregnant. And so that way out for men who want the benefit of such transactions to say, oh, well, she can get an abortion. Oh, she can be on birth control, right? And so really what that is, it's a way to co-opt people who ought to be standing up for women and saying, no, we need to have people focusing on relationships, not just, treating somebody like a Pez dispenser, right? And so that is, I think, the spiritual problem that we need to address is how to equip people to be in relationships where they honor each other and submit to each other is how, Scripture describes a good married relationship. And I think when we treat it as, hey, you're just you're the dispenser of this wonderful thing that I like to oblige myself of as often as possible, but we don't think about that other person, that's where a lot of this comes from. And I hope that as Christians, we understand how the Scripture teaches us to approach that topic. And that is the ultimate solution to the abortion problem, I think.